friends, and welcome to today's video. My name is Mia and this is Bookish, Blind, and Broadway Bound, and today we're going to do something that I'm very excited for. We are pairing musicals with book recommendations, paying a little homage to the Broadway part of the channel name. I'm super excited to be giving you all musical recommendations and book recommendations, and without further ado, let's just get into it. At number 10 on the list, we have The Great Gatsby. Now, the cast album for this just came out and it's incredible. All the actors and singers do such an amazing job. And this was already one of my favorite books by F. Scott Fitzgerald, and I think the musical adaptation is amazing. But the book that I have to pair with this one is The Diviners by Libba Bray. Like The Great Gatsby, it is set in 1920s, and it's set in New York City and focuses on the American dream and how that impacts a lot of different people, especially those that were sort of on the fringes during that time. People of color and women in the theater industry and many other places. It was very hard for women back then, of course, and people with disabilities and many other minorities. And so this book follows Evangeline, and she is just moved in to New York to her uncle's strange and slightly spooky museum when she learns about a string of murders that are happening, and she learns that only she and a group of her friends with interesting and strange powers have the ability to stop it. And so she and her friends decide to try and combat this, and it's all amid the glitz and glamour of the 20s. At number 9, we have In the Heights. This is one of my very favorites. I also love the movie adaptation. This is a story about family, about music, and about living as an American immigrant. And a book that also has those elements is Heartbreak, Symphony by Laekan Kemp. This book follows two characters, Mia, like me, and Aron. And both of these characters are sort of plagued by their own demons and their own heartbreak. They both want to be musicians, but something is holding them back. They're both struggling with stage fright, and they meet and they're both heartbroken because of some loss that's happened in their family. And so they're falling in love and learning to go for their dreams, and they're living amidst this landscape of gentrification in their neighborhoods, and they eventually just find hope in each other. And I love that both of these stories are full of heartbreak, but also hope and humor and heart. At number 8 is West Side Story, and this is another one that I love the movie adaptations. Both adaptations are great. This is a musical that retells Romeo and Juliet as a story about two gangs and their enmity between each other, and the two people that are right at the center falling in love. And another story about gangs, and that it's a retelling of Romeo and Juliet, is These Violent Delights by Chloe Gong. This is a story set in 1920s Shanghai, and it follows two leaders of very powerful gangs who were once in love but are now enemies. And so it's a story of tragedy and drama and murder and heartbreak and all the good juicy things that happen in the musical as well as this book. The writing is gorgeous and I would highly recommend. At number 7 is Phantom of the Opera. This is the famous gothic and spooky musical. And a book that goes along perfectly with those vibes is Sing Me Forgotten by Jessica S. Olson. This is actually a retelling of Phantom of the Opera. It's gender flipped. And so we follow this girl who lives in this opera house. And she actually has this magic that when people are singing, she can manipulate their memories. And so she actually keeps ticket prices high at this opera house by manipulating the memories of those who are watching the performances. She runs into this young and sweet singer named Amerie, and they form a romance where she's teaching him how to sing, and she finds something very mysterious in his memories that she has to learn to fix. And this is a story that follows morally gray characters, specifically the main character Isda, and a story about music and magic and those that we have pushed to the fringes of society. She has to learn and make the choice of whether she saves Amerie and how she may actually have to become a monster to do that. At number 6 is Six, the musical, and this follows the 6 wives of Henry VIII, but it's told in a very almost lighthearted way as they are reclaiming their story. And the book that goes perfectly with this is My Lady Jane by the Lady Janies. This book is a slightly comical and satirical retelling of the reign of Lady Jane Grey in England. We have lots of hijinks, a little bit of magic, and a lot of historical commentary, and it doesn't take itself too seriously, just like Six, and it's almost a reclamation of Jane's story and things from her point of view as well as of her friends, and it's a beautiful story I highly recommend. At number 5 is yet another Shakespeare musical. This is & Juliet. This takes a bit of a different approach. Rather than being very moody and heartbreaking like West Side Story, this is a tale of joy and of female friendship and of a girl who is also reclaiming her story without the Romeo attached. The book that I would recommend for this is Enter the Body by Joy McCullough. This is told through verse, and it follows all of the women in Shakespeare's tragedies that were wronged in some way, that were denied their right to have their stories told. So it follows them reconnecting, finding joy, and telling the stories from their point of view. At number 4 is Wicked. I'm so excited for the movie adaptation that's going to come up for this one. This is a retelling of a story from the villain's point of view, so what better book to go along with this than Because You Love to Hate Me. Now, this is actually an anthology, so there's about 16 or 17 stories from authors that are retelling the story from villain's point of view. Everyone takes a different approach. There's stories about Camelot, about death, about the Sea Witch from The Little Mermaid, and so much more. And all of these are new inventive twists about why we love the villains so much and why we may have misunderstood them in the first place. At number 3 is Les Miserables. This is probably my all-time favorite musical. It's full of sadness and revolution, and ultimately those that have been oppressed trying their best to fight back and to live. And the book that goes with this one is Mistborn, or The Final Empire, by Brandon Sanderson. This book is also a story of revolution, of rising up, and of hope that can never die, regardless of all the tragedies that happen alongside it. And I think that these two go together really well because of how one is maybe told from a more fantasy perspective, but all in all, they share these all-encompassing themes of tragedy and hope and perseverance throughout it all. At number 2, we have a little bit of a different one. This is Over the Moon, and it's actually meant to be a children's movie, but it's a musical, and it stars Philippa Sue, who I love. And I think that it's a good story for all ages. It follows Chinese mythology, and it's absolutely beautiful and so cozy. And the book that I would recommend to go alongside this is When You Wish Upon a Lantern by Gloria Chow. This is a contemporary romance about two people who take it upon themselves to help all of the people in their town make their wishes come true. And while they're making other people's wishes come true, perhaps they can make their own wishes come to life as well by perhaps saving their bakeries and uniting their families that have long been rivaled. Once again, another little homage to Shakespeare. I guess he's just everywhere in the musical and the book scene. And finally, at number 1 is Sweeney Todd. This is a very dramatic, epic story of revenge, of murder, and of ultimately very flawed characters set in London during the Industrial Revolution. And the book that pairs with this is Anatomy, a Love Story by Donna Schwartz. These two have very similar spooky, murdery vibes. Anatomy follows a girl who wants to become a surgeon, and she's extremely determined. It's set in 1817 in Edinburgh, and this girl is named Hazel. She really is set on this dream, and so she needs the help of Jack, who is what they call a resurrection man. And back in this day, they only used bodies to figure out how our medical procedures would work, and so she needs his help to provide her with bodies so that she can become a surgeon. It's a little bit gruesome, but it's actually not as spooky as it sounds, because this is ultimately a story of history and of, yes, a little bit of creepiness, but a lot of hope and happiness and many interesting lessons to learn along the way, which is very similar to Sweeney Todd. All right, everybody, that is it with the recommendations Please like and subscribe to the channel. It helps me so much. If you feel so inclined, do check out my Instagram and Goodreads linked in the description of the channel, and comment down below if there are any musicals I missed that you'd like to see recommendations with in the future. Once again, thank you so much for watching. Have a lovely day, and I'll see you in the next video.